author R. Weir. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done a show. Looking forward to the interview tonight. Hope everybody's getting ready for the 4th of July. And if your dogs are scared of fireworks, I hope you're home to take care of them because I know our dogs, at least one of them, hates them. So we don't always look forward to the fireworks as much. So, but I'm going to introduce my guest here. We're going to bring him up here. We have got Mark Edward Jones. Hi, Mark. How you
Hi.
doing?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Mark and I met the previous year at Killer Nashville. He was on a panel that I did, and we'll talk about that a little bit later because that's kind of one of the questions that I ask. But it was a fun panel, and we had a good time. And we were talking backstage before the show started that you go to Killer Nashville usually every other year. How many years have you gone?
I think I've been three times.
Yeah.
Um, Mainly, having to fly in and so on. It's gets to be a little expensive, so I kind of trade off with some other things.
What part of the country do you have to fly in from?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. Yeah. So, well,
Well, it's not a bad flight. It's just
no.
direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can almost drive that too, right? It was real far.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know 8 or 9 hours, so
It's
that's an option.
still a little bit of a tough,
Yeah.
still a little bit of
It's not quick, but it's one day.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Tell everyone all the important stuff about a little bit about yourself. We already heard where you're from. A little background on yourself.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Oklahoma. Duncan was the little town I grew up in. It's in very south part of the state, and I went to the University of Oklahoma, got 2 degrees there, got married, then started at a bank, and then I worked at the university for around 30 years or so before I retired in 2017. Um, I always liked writing. I used to write little stories when I was in grade school up through high school, and then, of course, once you go to college, it's just term papers and that type of thing, and then kids come along and you kind of get away from it. So I took it up again uh, about the time I retired, um, trying some different things and tried to first see how bad I could write. So I took some classes and everything kind of went from there.
So, what did you do professionally then before you retired?
Well, I started out, like I said, in a bank, and then I went to the budget office at the University of Oklahoma and got into more of the accounting and then eventually the IT systems side of the financial areas, um, along with what I was already doing. So, it was a good experience. Got to meet a lot of different people, different kind of people, and I love being on campus. And walk around at noon and see the places you used to, have a beer or two, and it was just a good time. And then we had an early buyout option in 2017, and I skated by in just by 3 days and was eligible for it, so I jumped on it.
And hopefully they gave you some good money, huh, for the buyout.
They did actually.
Like that. So I saw you and your wife are about to be 45th anniversary.
It's coming up November, yeah.
And you had a picture of you both there, and I have to say, did you guys get married when you were 10? Because
No,
golly, you don't look like you've been 45 years. I mean, both of you look too young to be married that
I
long.
think I'm 2 years older than you are. I was born in '57.
Well, I've only been married 30 years, but I
Oh,
waited.
wow.
I was a single man for a long time. My wife, I think I was 38, I think, before I got married.
Oh gosh, you fought them off for a while, huh?
That's right. Yeah, not that I had a lot of women in my life, so it was.
Well, that's kind of that way too.
I don't think any of them really wanted to be with me. So
Yeah. You
she
finally
was a
talked
lot
her
younger than
into it,
me. I had
right?
to wait for her to get to legal age before I
That's
could
right.
marry her. So you said you liked to write when you were younger. So
Mhm.
do you still have any of that stuff that you wrote?
I don't. I don't know. Who knows what happened to it?
Yeah.
Um, the first little story was about I think it's about a little plastic car that went to the desert and his wheels melted. Had a hard time getting home. That was pretty much the end of that. And then by the time I was senior in high school, I actually had a real writing class, not just where to put a comma and that kind of stuff. So it really did help me. And in fact, one of my first books I dedicated to that teacher of that class. Um, so, you know, and then once, like I said, once you get to college, you got 10 million other things going on. So, and then the stories really, back in the 90s, this may be a sidebar here, but I kind of had a difficult boss, and our office was just right next to the university library. So I would go over to the library every day and just start going through the stacks and see what interested me. And I started a little story as a historical fiction, which turned out to be pretty bad. But it kind of whetted my appetite a little bit, and then when I retired, I kind of jumped both feet in.
So you like to write. I'm assuming you love to read too. Were there any go-to authors that you really enjoyed reading when you were young and through the years?
Of course, in high school they make you read some of the classics and some of the Shakespeare, and I did like Charles Dickens when I was younger. I've reread some of his and don't like it as well as I did when I was younger. But right now I'm just kind of all over the place. It's mostly mysteries and detective and so on. I kind of got hooked in. I think the author's name is Joyce Linerons, who writes. She's written 20 in the series about a 13th century coroner who investigates crimes. And I just got hooked on them. I don't know. And how do you explain that? They would have thought something like that. But and these days, I found some old stuff. I've got a Chandler book going right now, one of his short stories, and I've got what else? I like Grisham and two or three of the others that we talk about all the time. Michael Crichton, some of his older ones. So it's just I'm kind of all over the place, but um, I do like to explore. Michael Connelly's another one, so I don't know how different I am than anybody else, but there's not much. I did read some sci-fi when I was younger, but I don't seem to do that as much now. I don't know what's changed in my brain for that to have happened, but it just did. So a lot of my stuff, I think I just get from watching so much TV and um, detective shows. And really, when I started my first detective novel, was like, well, I'm going to write this like I want to see a TV show, and whether I did or not, that's another question. But that's kind of how I got started where I am now.
Yeah, your new book series, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you're kind of doing the serialized type of
Right. I kind of
shows,
step back a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. So it'd be interesting how that turns out. So I saw on your website about some of your musical tastes,
Yeah.
some of the ones that you liked, and some of those are favorites of mine as well. You mentioned Earth, Wind and Fire, Boss Skaggs, and you mentioned Chicago.
Right.
So, of course, I have to ask this question. Being a Chicago, you like Chicago. Do you know what their original band name was?
I do, but I don't remember it.
Yeah,
Shoot, I can't remember. Go ahead and
they
tell me.
had to shorten it.
Yes. Well,
Their
it's
first album was
Chicago Transit
Chicago Transit
Authority.
Authority.
Right. But
I
before
think
that, they had
because
different.
the subways there were threatening to sue them, I
Right.
guess, which I thought that's interesting. Yeah, so
Yeah. A lot of stuff was
they had
different.
another band name even before
Right.
Chicago as well,
Before everybody joined up. Yeah.
but yeah, their first album that was it, and then they had to change it because yeah of lawsuits and stuff. So interesting. So you like the rock and the pop rock and from the 70s and 80s? Is that
That's
kind of
pretty
what
much as far as I go. I mean,
yeah.
newer stuff. I like Bruno Mars, okay, but everything else is pretty much old stuff.
Yeah. What? That's good. I say I love rock and roll and I love R&B and I love all those different
Mhm.
ones. So what do you do to decompress these days? Is writing a way to decompress or do you have
Oh
other
yeah.
things?
Um, as soon as I get into whatever I'm writing, everything else just kind of goes away, and I get into it, and And I don't, my whole day's not taken up by writing. I'll um, errands to run and things to do around the house and this, that, and the other. And I'll probably spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day either, writing or editing or sketching out some things. Or I'm in, oh gosh, I guess 3 critique groups. They're all small, but we do a lot of critiquing of each other. Um, but as far as decompressing, that's pretty much it. I've got a grandson. I guess that's a whole different. I don't know if that's decompression or not, but he's a lot of fun anyway.
Depends on how he acts at the moment, right?
Yes, yes, that's for sure.
And do you have any other hobbies? Something to do that get out and about? And
Not really. My wife retired, I guess, 2 years ago. We moved into a new neighborhood, and supposedly for older adults, but there are a few kids around. She's found a few friends, and there's a few guys here that we kind of hang out sometimes, and go to baseball. Of course, football here in Oklahoma, and then the Thunder. We try to follow that a lot, and we have a AAA baseball team here that I try to go to some of their games.
are they still? Well, they used to be. I thought the Oklahoma City Oilers. I don't know if is that still their name.
Now it's the Comets.
Comets. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking years and years ago because when I grew up in the Midwest, in Des Moines, Iowa, we had the Iowa Oaks, and now they're the Iowa Cubs because they used to be the team of the Oakland A's.
Hmm.
Vida Blue and some of their great players came
Oh
through
yeah.
Des Moines, and then the Cubs took over, and now it's a Cubby world now. So, but I was thinking it was the same AAA league, and Oklahoma City would used to come up there, but we're talking '60s here,
Yeah.
'70s.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time they were with the Rangers,
Yeah.
um, and then there was somebody in between. It was Oklahoma City Dodgers for a while because it was. I think
Oh,
it
really?
still is Dodgers, but as far as the affiliation, but they decided to go ahead and change the name. It was the Red Hawks for a while, and so it's been several things.
A lot of different names
Yeah.
through the years. So you said you started writing when you were young. So
Mhm.
um, what was some of the motivation? What's been your motivation to write more now that you've gotten retired? What
Oh, like I said, I've liked it, and now that I had time, for one thing, um, and then I just thought I'd give it a shot as far as the first story, and then when I started taking some of those classes of various kinds, I started meeting other authors, and I just kind of stumbled into an editor that worked on my first book with me. It seemed like it was just a lot of luck at some point that I got started that way. Um, that's pretty much what I do now.
Yeah,
There's not just a lot of other things that appeal to me.
yeah. So have you always kind of had those ideas and stories in your head, but you just didn't have the time to do it?
Yeah, I was a single, only child, so
Yeah,
I would make up a lot of stories and or play games by myself or something, But probably too much TV when I was younger. A lot of Star Trek and all kinds of stuff. I don't know how old I was before I was allowed to watch crime shows, but that's the ones I liked.
yeah.
Even more so as I got older, and that's what I kind of went with.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about. But I know on your website it looks like you've written a lot of different. I mean, mystery and crime, but you've also had some other genres that
Hmm.
you've written as well. And I don't have the covers for those other books, but let's
No,
talk
it's
about
not-
some of your early works before we get into your new stuff.
Yeah, my first book was called Peculiar Activities. It was a detective mystery, and I got so lucky because I went to the Oklahoma Writers Federation conference and just came across an editor, and she was with Wild Rose Press, and she listened to me and said she'd take it, and we worked on it for about 2 more years, and it was so big. I think I had 120,000 words or something, and we got it down to around 90. and signed a contract for that and the sequel, which was Shadowed Souls. And she's also been the instigator of we have a Friday the 13th group, which is, there's 13 authors, and they kind of vary who they are. Every Friday the 13th, we release a supernatural or horror story, and it's 13,000 words, 13 chapters, and so on. And when she first mentioned it to me, it was like, horror's not something I watch. I just never really been that interested. But once I got started, I started with um, a supernatural. There's kind of a three story arc for him, and then the most recent one was actually a space horror. Speaking of Star Trek, and it was another one. It was about 14 or 15,000 words, and so that was kind of fun to do. I mean, there's a lot of experimenting there. We don't sell a lot of books. They're not in one anthology, but we are connected on Amazon. But it's been fun. I mean, it gives you a chance to kind of look in other places and um, see if something else you might like more than what you thought you liked. So that's been kind of interesting. And then I've got a third. Yeah, I think it's a third in the original detective series with Henry Pierce. But of the first two, people told me they liked his boss better than him. So I've written a whole novel. It's 80 Stones, his name, and I'm about halfway through the second one. And I've kind of debated that. I met an agent a couple of years ago and seemed kind of positive, so I may send one of those out to him. So we'll just see what happens. I haven't tried an agent before, and I'm just kind of curious what's going to happen with that. But anyway, I just have all these things kind of stacked up, and I really need to get moving forward as far as publishing. And now, do you publish independently or
Yeah, I'm all self-published,
from
independent.
day one, or
Yeah, I didn't have the patience to.
well, yeah, I know. I
I
learned a lot.
sent some stuff off to early. I wrote some stuff in the '80s and sent them off, and
Did you?
never got any really responses
Yeah.
or anything. And so I decided, oh, I'll just self-publish. And I'm also kind of one of those where I don't like people telling me what I want to write too. So that's
Well,
always the challenge.
do you do your covers, or how do you do that?
No, I have a cover artist. I've had three different ones through the years, though the one I have now has been my artist for probably 70% of my books. And then I pay for an editor and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So it all comes out of pocket, unfortunately. But I get all the money, so they say, but that's not necessarily true because Amazon still takes
Oh, yeah.
their chunks.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
But no, I like being independent if somebody out there wanted to offer me, but these days you pretty much almost have to have an agent
Yeah.
to even get anybody looking. Now, it sounds like you got lucky with the one press that you had your first
Right.
book. That wasn't an agent you were going through. You just went straight to
No,
them.
it's a small press. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't some lightning strike that I got that lucky, but they were willing to take me on, and it was nothing else. It's just nice to say, yeah, I got a publisher. Um, but it's nice to see other avenues available as far as to publish yourself, and um, we'll see how this other stuff works. If it doesn't work out, then I'll still keep self-publishing. I don't know if I stumble across another publisher outside of an agent, I might do it, but I'm kind of probably 90% sure I'll stay independent.
But you said you had submitted something to an agent or were going to,
Well,
right?
we had lunch together.
Yeah.
This is quite a while back, and he seemed positive about some of the stories I was writing, but I haven't gotten as far as actually doing the submission. If he's
Yeah,
still,
Kill in Nashville has, where you can get in front of an agent
uh,
and talk to them and see if there's
that's the
anything.
hard part.
Yeah.
But when I do it, I kind of freeze up.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
have to
would
until we
too.
got lunch. Try to bribe him a little bit. That's been 2 years already, so I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Tried anyway.
So so you had the like the mystery and the crime, and you said you did a horror thing. And how many years have you done this Friday the 13th now?
Let's see. The first one was in 2021.
So quite a few years, and you're going
I've
to
been, I
continue to
think
do
I've had
that.
six. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this year I only did one. There were actually, yeah, I think it's 2026. There's three Friday the 13th. And I told them I just can't do it. I don't have time. So we do it anyway. And they're
There's
always
three
looking
this
for
year, huh?
people.
Oh wow.
If you get it, the urge to write something like that. I mean, they're always looking for people. So
Yeah. Well, about the closest I've ever gotten to horror is serial killer.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that, in my series, so it's not really my forte, but I do have some. Serial killers are kind of close. I mean, it's
yeah.
so
Well, my
so.
first one was an assassin in Prague, and who also had some supernatural powers.
Ah,
I wrote the first draft, and she said it's a thriller, but it's not supernatural. So I had to go back and fix a few things, and I thought he was pretty evil, and I didn't sell that many, but yeah, I did three books on him actually.
oh,
It's been kind of fun.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of fun to make up different worlds and
Yeah.
different people's powers and stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about the one you've got one coming out July 1st,
Uh-huh.
and that one is Wrong Day to Quit, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so give us a little bit about the idea behind this and what you were hoping to accomplish with this.
Well, Wrong Day to Quit is pretty tropey as far as 1930s, Humphrey Bogart type detective, whiskey on the desk and Lady in Red, and et cetera, et cetera. And which I've always liked. I mean, I was better watching the movies than reading the books when I was growing up. I've been interested and I really didn't, when you get into writing it, it was hard for me to keep going with the similes and metaphors, that they use. Um, to be able to do an entire book. So I thought, what if I pull back and each one of these smaller books are a different case? I mean, they kind of build on each other, but they wouldn't necessarily go together in a novel. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to do one. I've got five in mind. I've written four, and they're going to be coming out every other month. And the reason he's called Twitchy is he's trying to quit smoking, and that just kind of follows him around. And whether he ever has a success, I don't know. But that's where I came up with it. It's easy to me. It's fun to get out stories and get feedback and move on to the next one, rather than for me it takes forever to do a novel. I don't know about you, but and so that way I can get automatic feedback. I can keep writing these, and I actually have ideas for about 15 of them if it ever catches on.
So how long are these? Each of
They're
these?
about anywhere from 15 to 18,000 words.
So
So it's
about
they're
novella length, yeah.
paperback, um, probably 60, 70 pages each. And yeah, I don't know if they're novellas or novelettes or what they are. You see different definitions. So yeah, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I guess I enjoyed it more than I thought when I got started because I seem to be able to pump these out pretty fast.
So you're doing it every other month. So these are self-published and going to be out on Amazon or
Right. They're Amazon. The first one's out there for sale on the first. There's a pre-order for the second one, which will be September 1st. It's called Beanie's Last Debt, and we'll just go from there. And one month I'll have the pre-order, the next month it comes out, and so on and so on. Um, and that will be, like I think I said, through March. I think that's right. And then we'll see how it goes. If they haven't really caught on, we'll see what happens. But as I said, I really enjoy doing it.
so does each book novella, whatever you want to call
Right.
it, lead into the next one? Is there a little bit of a
Well, for Benny's Last Debt is pretty much part two of the first one. I mean, there's some other stuff going on, but after that, they kind of move ahead a little bit, This is they begin in 1935, and I'll end up around 1936. And then the second group, I think, so this will be quite, it's maybe a year or so away, is probably, there may be four, maybe five, set around World War II. And they're all in Alexandria, Virginia. I tried to pick a place that's kind of across the river from all the power in DC. So there's a lot of uh, chances for crookedness and whatever else goes on. Um, it's been kind of fun too because I've been to Alexandria and read a lot of the history. There's all kinds of stuff going on over the years. There's a torpedo factory in World War II, and so there's all kinds of opportunities for little quick stories.
Did you find it difficult to do a period piece like that to keep it
At
realistic?
first, I did a lot of research as far as, um, even I remember one thing kind of stuck out. He was in, or Frank O'Brien was in a pub listening to, he heard the jukebox go off. And first of all, I'll just have it be Sinatra or somebody. Well, Sinatra wasn't really there yet.
Right.
I had to go start investigating that, digging out. I think I picked out the Waters in some old song. So even little things like that, and in some ways, to me, it's been easier writing that period instead of now. Now you have to, well, they took out a cell phone and put a cell phone back. Well, they didn't have to do that then. Nobody knew where you were. So,
No tracking, no
tracking,
GPS,
showed up and talked to a guy, and they might beat you up. But
gas 20 cents a gallon or whatever it was then.
and the cars too. I had to be careful about what I assumed would have been driven by upper class person versus lower class, or depending on your money and so on. So you had to do wasn't necessarily Cadillac or a Lincoln. There was the Packards and
Right.
Duesenbergs and everything else back then. So, but like I say, I enjoyed it.
And the guns, you got to get the guns right if there's
It
guns.
sounds right, and I try to go too far into that. I don't know what you do, but it's just I don't try to go into the rifling and all the little details with that. But you try to get pretty correct.
So we had the second one. So which one was the third one?
Myrna, Myrna's last favor,
Okay, there we go.
lady in the red dress. That's actually Frank's ex-wife, and she comes back because her boyfriend's in jail because he's suspected of murder. And he resists, but he can't resist her completely, so he ends up helping her get him free.
And you have some femme fatales, I'm assuming, in the.
It's mainly her. I don't really have any in the fourth book. Maybe I should think about that. The fourth one is Death on the Docks, and it's more of a labor union, um, people dying,
Right.
and because the DC union's trying to take over from Alexandria. And then the last one has to do with um, dead man's payout has to do more with a lobbyist that hotel he's in burns down while he's in it. So Frank has to investigate what was going on. Alexandria is very crooked, lots of payoffs and crime under the table and that type of thing, which isn't that far off from what I've read.
Yeah, probably a lot of that.
Yeah.
So you were talking about all the tropes and everything,
Mhm.
from those time periods. So when you're writing something, how do you keep it kind of fresh so you're not trying to. It's hard not to copy somewhat
Right.
those type of books, but you're still trying to put twists on that. So did you find that challenging in any way, or were you just kind of just looking just to write it and have a good time?
Well, write and have a good time. There were a few things in it that I even, I copied and pasted to Google. Said, did somebody else think of this? I want to make sure that somewhere back in here I hadn't
Not to
read it
borrow it, yeah.
and put it down again. Um, but it's hard in some ways not to get too troubled. Like I said, in sci-fi, it'd be hard for me not to just copy off Star Trek. You know, you have warp drives and transporters and this and that and the other. So, um, you know, it wasn't that bad. I just had to be sure that I want to be as accurate as possible and make sure that I wasn't accidentally copying off somebody else.
So you said you've written four, and the fifth one you've started, or you haven't started?
It's outlined. I haven't quite there yet.
So you're working on that, and then what else? You have some other stuff that you're working on right now as well.
I've written about half of the third, my original Henry Pierce detective series. I've kind of put that on ice because I have my rights reversion as possible later this year for the first two. And I thought about taking that back and adjusting those just a little bit depending on what I wanted to emphasize. So anyway, whatever I would do there would affect the third story. So I've kind of put that aside for the time being. My Eddie Stone novels, say I finished one, I'm probably about halfway through with the second. And with this schedule I'm on right now, with every other month with these novellas, it's a lot of the longer stuff is getting put aside. And then I have a long-term project that's more sci-fi, um, and it's going back and reading it. I mean, it's all over the map. I've got like 30 different subplots going, and so it's like it's one down the line, you know. But
So
you know,
what time
it's
period?
what's that?
What time periods are your other detective series? Are they modern times too?
They're more modern, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one around 2015, and then the other was like 2020 or 2021.
And where are those based at? Are some of those in Oklahoma or
Alexandria.
Alexandria too? Huh?
Yeah, it's funny because I've taken a pub that um, Frank goes into, Frank O'Brien, and it's the same pub that Eddie and Henry Pierce used years later. Same buffalo head looking down on them. So it's more, as much of a character as the regular characters. And there wasn't anything purposeful about it. It just kind of came about. I think I'll just keep using this because it kind of ties everything together.
So do some of the books kind of interlink in some ways? Do some of the characters show up in the? I'm obviously the ones from the 30s don't,
Right.
but
Yeah, there's lots of crossover between Eddie Stone because Eddie Stone is Henry's boss in the Detective Pierce series, and Eddie's boss. There's probably four or five that it just kind of flows into a different point of view, basically.
so you mentioned you have an outline that you're working on, and
Mhm.
we met on a panel at Killer Nashville last year that was about being a pantser,
Hmm.
which was a fun panel to
It
do.
was.
And here's a picture of all of us that were on the panel. Uh, I'm on the far right there. We have Jim Nesbitt, he's been on the show a couple times. Jim's a
Oh,
great
really?
guy. He's a Texas guy.
Hmm.
So you two would have lots of war stories between Oklahoma and Texas.
Oh, I'm sure. I didn't bring it up when I was there.
Yeah, so we probably shouldn't have sat you next to each other, right? But you know, that's okay. The border war, as they call it.
Right.
And then, of course, you're there, Mark. And then we have Robert Mangio, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And then we have Charles Amico, I think it is.
That sounds
Eh,
familiar.
Yeah, so we had a fun time, and I know when the panel was put together, I was a moderator on there, and I know when I sent out the email, I said, basically speaking, we're pantsers, so I'm not going to send you any questions. We're going to let you fly by the seat of your pants,
Yeah. It
and we'll
worked
just,
for
we'll
me.
just go with it. Even though I had some questions in mind, I a lot of times, just like when I do on the show,
Right.
I got a list of questions, but sometimes something just pops in my head, and I'll just talk about it. So we talked a lot about being a pantser, and you just mentioned that you're outlining this one series. So you've kind of been a little bit of a hybrid. You've kind of gone
A
back and
little
forth
bit,
between
but
that.
my outlines are kind of broad. I mean,
Yeah.
I always I'm pretty good about knowing how to start and how to end. It's the middle that I kind of pants away on, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. I mean, as far as just kind of wandering around till I figure out what I want to do. But it seems to be more so in the novels versus the short stories. Um, but it's they kind of flow together. I at first my first book I tried to be a good outliner because I didn't know any difference. But it seemed like after a while I was spending more time on the outline than I was doing writing because I kept changing so much.
Hmm.
It just didn't do me any good. So, and I'm not a slow writer, but I'm not that fast either. So it's easy for me to not go too fast and get lost. And I tend to go back and on a fresh day and at least look at the prior chapter or so that I've read or I've written, and just go from there. To me, it's just whatever works for you. You know, um, I
Have you
found.
ever been down a few rabbit holes before, or
Oh,
written,
sure,
wrote
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
into a corner and it's like, how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah, that first book, like I say, I cut 30,000 words out of it. A lot of it was probably half of it was from the middle, just because I just kept bringing in new characters that didn't need to be there. It was overcomplicated. So that's one of the reasons I want to get my rights back and see if I can clean that up a little bit. But I can't, I can't picture myself ever just sitting down and do a real outline, like I'm used to from schools. That just doesn't work for me.
So where do you usually start? So you've got an idea. So is there usually a title, a general subplot, characters, or is it a little bit of mixture? Anything in particular?
It's kind of a mixture. I don't necessarily have a title in mind. Now, I might mention that the Wrong Day to Quit was actually from one of my critique groups. We do a prompt every month, and it was my turn. And I thought, you remember the line from Airplane, it was the wrong, picked a bad day to quit smoking.
That's right.
So that's how Wrong Day to Quit came up, and the guy's a smoker trying to quit. Um, but that's where the ideas come from, and then the follow-ups to that one, just whatever jumps out at me. Um, and as far as the start, I don't know. That seems to be the easiest for me for some reason.
Yeah.
There's one of my Eddie Stone stories that starts on an island with two guys digging up what it's not a treasure, but it's some secret information. We'll put it that way. And that was easy to write, and it just kept right on going. So, um, whatever works for you is all I can say.
So you said you usually have the beginning and the ending, but not always the middle. So have you ever written the ending before you did the middle?
A lot.
Yeah.
I've, and it not necessarily I don't go chapter 1, 2, and chapter 45. I'll write 10 or 12 chapters and a little bit of the middle, and then I think, well, where am I going with this? And I said, well, I know where I want it to end, so I'll write the last chapter. And I have even gone back and gone backwards and written the last chapter, next to last, next to last, next to last. And that seemed to have helped. All of a sudden, I could go back to where I was and just zip right on through then. So, I don't know, I'm probably crazy for doing that, but it seems to work.
Well, like you said, whatever works for you. I mean,
Right,
there's
right.
no tried and true way. I mean, you could see it. Oh, you see all these ebooks, how to write a best-selling novel, and
Right.
like, well,
What do you do?
oh, I generally just start writing. Sometimes I'll have a title,
Yeah.
like my serial killer book. I had the title, The Front Range Butcher.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the name. That's all I had to start with, and I just went from there. And I've actually had two books with that character in it. So that's where it is. I've had some times where I thought I had the title, and the title will change midway through. I mean, I've had a few books where I've had 7 or 8 different titles, and I
Is that
finally
right?
settle on one. So
Wow.
yeah. And so you may have experienced a similar thing. I generally write from the beginning to the end, but I have written the last chapter a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not a big rewriter. I rarely throw out things either. It's just one of those. My editor sometimes wants me to throw out things, but there's sometimes I look at it and go, no, I want to leave that in there. And I'm going through that right now with a book we're working on now. She's got a chapter. She says, you don't need this chapter. And so I'm waiting till I get it all back from her, and I'll make up my mind sometimes. But
Yeah.
I have a couple times written the chapter two different ways
Oh,
and then decide which
your
one I want to
narrators.
go. So
Yeah.
it's slightly different. Like I wasn't real happy with this one, so I'm going to write another one. And yeah, so but generally it's beginning to end for me in most cases.
Now, I downloaded your short story Bubble Gun,
Hmm.
case of the bubble missing the bubble gum card, and was curious. Did you write that before the novel, or was that along with it, or how did that get started?
So I wrote that in the 80s,
Oh, really?
a
Wow.
long, long time ago. And way before the days of independent publishing,
Mhm.
put it off to the side. Had no idea that it was going to be a private eye series or anything. And I've got book 11 came out earlier this year in that series. But um, and most people go, "Why did you say bubblegum card?" Because that's what I they were called when I was growing up.
Yeah, that's
Was
what I
a
thought.
bubblegum card, right? Because you came with that horrible stick of bubblegum.
Oh, that's terrible.
Some people say, well, it should be baseball card because a lot of people don't know what bubblegum card is, right?
I knew
But
what it
that was
was
what
right
it
away.
is. Yeah. So, but then later when I started, like I was just like you, I got married, had a child. That was my priority in life,
Mhm.
working, my job. Didn't write for years and years and years. And then my daughter got older and I'm like, okay, I want to revisit this. And so I decided to publish that short story. But I had to update it because it was 80s and I had to have more modern. I still had Ernie Banks, but I also had some other characters and kind of upgraded that part and all that, and then produced it. And then people who read it said, you know, that Private Eye would make a good series. And that's when I wrote. Then I said, okay, I'll do the next book, and been there from there. But I've always loved those snarky, tough private eyes whose love
Mhm.
life is a mess, and your private eyes may be very similar as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
The type of characters I enjoy, and I like a little humor in my stories as well. You know, he's always cracking jokes, even when he's getting his butt kicked.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm reading first time Trouble is My Business, the Chandler book,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. It's a shorter one, but he's just fun to read, I think.
And I was always a bit. Robert B. Parker was always the guy, my go-to guy. I love the
Mhm.
Spencer series, the Jesse Stone series. But when I was young, I read Ian Fleming. I love the old James Bond
I
novels.
never have. I should have.
They're so out of date now, but
I'm sure.
reading them, but they were really good. And then you know I just went on. I read Robert Ludlum. The Bourne trilogy was really good, and so I always those are always the books that I enjoyed, and that's kind of what I've written from there and gone on from that. So you've got have you ever experienced writer's block? And if you have, what was your what? How did you get out of it?
Well, early on I did because I was just working on one thing, and I don't remember what happened. To tell you the truth, I put it aside for a while and came back. But as I've gotten further into this, um, it seems like if I have two or three different projects going, it's easy to, if you get stuck on one, put it aside for a while and I'll just go do something else. Or I'll edit, something just to do, if I'm stuck writing, I'm not going to just force myself to write because it just jumped. So it's been easier for me, like I might have the novel length detective story versus noir story, and even maybe one of the horror stories that I do every now and then. And of course, I don't write them all at once, but it's easier just to, like I say, you put one aside and then go write a chapter or something else. Not sometimes just kind of frees up your brain to other ideas.
So it sounds like you're pretty diligent and you try to write every day, or do you get kind of set out a certain amount of time every day to sit down and write, or
I don't limit my time necessarily. I mean, sometimes it might be an hour and sometimes 4 or 5. I don't do it all day. It just wears me out. I mean, I got to do other stuff. Plus, there's just stuff to do around the house, run errands and watch the grandkid and this, that, and the other. But yeah, I'm probably 25 hours a week or so that I spend on writing. And it seems like I think about it another 25 hours about some subplot or, some character, what he might say, this, that, and the other.
So I don't know if you experienced. I have this conversation with my neighbor across the street. He retired last year, and I just retired for good
Uh-huh.
earlier this year. And we were talked about. He said, "Randy, I retired, and I thought I'd have all this free time, and I'm busier than I ever was before when I was working."
Feels like it.
Do you feel like that sometimes too?
Yeah, I mean, you turn around, it's lunchtime, and then
Yeah.
you might try to sit down and write a little bit, and all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock, and time to feed the dog and take him on a walk, and it's time for dinner, and plop down and do nothing. Just every day, and then
Can't put off those chores around the house anymore. Well, I got to go to work today, so but you can't. You got to go
right,
to all those projects.
yeah,
All right. Well, we're about at 45 minutes here, so I'm going to get down to the last few questions. And I
okay,
always ask this question of all my guests. Name of the show is Bringing Life to Characters. So
right.
I always ask everyone, what's your secret sauce? What is it you try to do to get those characters to jump off the page? Any any secret formulas that you use?
I don't know. I've always kind of approached it. The story is just kind of a snapshot of that person's life, and you don't necessarily know what happened beforehand or what's going to happen afterward. But I try to write it. It's not just somebody that showed up for your book. They had a life before and hopefully after. So that's the way I kind of write them. There's a lot of, not a lot, but I include some information with no info dump, and I just try to make it look like this is just one little piece of their life that's happened, and I'm writing about it.
And do you find when you're writing a series too that you can kind of bring out a little bit about the character and maybe a little
Yeah,
more later? Do you kind of bleed it out a little bit?
I hope so, and that's one of the things I've run into over the years is telling too much up front.
Right.
One doesn't have to be, and my editor catches most of that, and um,
Save a little for the next book, right?
yeah, yeah, that or later in the story or something. That's where it's
Yeah.
more appropriate. Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for aspiring authors who want to get into this crazy business?
Oh gosh, persevere.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be ready to just write stories and try to publish them, and they may not do anything. I'm pretty good at that. As far as sales is a whole nother issue. Um, but you gotta just sit down and write the book. Find an editor, find critique groups, and join some organizations so you can actually learn how to do it. And patience is one thing up to a point. When you get our age, you don't have a lot of patience. But um, just persevere. Don't ever quit. And you got to learn marketing and all the other stuff that goes with it. Social media, which I hate.
Yes. Well, that was the next question. Any advice about marketing yourself and your books? That's always that's always tough. We're writers in general are a little bit introverted. I mean, some not all
Sure.
are, but some are. And
Yeah.
it took me a while to get used to going out to conferences and walking up to famous authors and saying hi and shaking their hand and all those things. It's challenging.
It's very challenging, and just thinking about sitting down in front of an agent, still kind of gives me the hives or something because I don't know. It's just hard for me to do. When somebody asks me about my book, I just kind of, I don't know, it's just about a guy. So it's and marketing, I don't know, and social media too. I do everything that I'm told to do as far as get ideas from folks, and try to do 7 or 8 different social media sites, and not all the time, but I kind of bounce around between them, and I can't really tell that anything's really taken off. Um, I have a friend. This is kind of off the subject, but I had a friend whose daughter, I think she's 10 or 11, has a friend that has a YouTube channel where she paints her nails once a week, and she has like 500,000 subscribers.
Just from painting her nails.
Painting all these little different colors and designs and this and that. You know, I pound away and I might get 6 likes on, X or Facebook or whatever. So I don't know what the secret is with that. I just keep doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing. At some
Everybody
point,
talks
I'll
about
catch up.
TikTok too. I
What's
can't.
that?
I'm able to get in TikTok.
Oh
People
no.
talk about you could sell TikTok, and I just beat my head against the wall trying to do that.
Yeah, I had an account for a while and posted a couple things, and I saw some of the other stuff, and I thought, nah, I don't want to do that. I think I closed it down. So
Yeah.
then I don't know. I don't know what the secret is. If you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a different generation. I don't
I
know.
guess. Yeah.
I mean, I worked in the IT world, and I feel like I'm not totally nuts about, and I understand technology and stuff, but
Hmm.
just putting a phone in front of yourself and recording you while you're talking just seems a little weird sometimes. But
Yeah, it does.
I do this. This is the way I
You
get
do
out there.
good.
I
Yeah.
interview authors, and
Right.
I find it fun. And some are really well known. I've had some really big name authors on here, and I've had some lesser names, and I enjoy every one. This is, I think, my 72nd or 73rd
Is that
episode.
right? Wow.
Yeah, and it's fun because I honestly I learn something every time I talk
Mhm.
to a different author. A lot of people's paths are similar, but there are a lot of differences too. And
Well, it's kind of funny. Just since you contacted me the first time, I started looking at some of your books to know, and it's to notice how close some of our characters are, especially as the kind of smart mouth guy,
yeah,
and with the Frank O'Brien guy, and actually Henry Pierce too. Um, they're very similar. It's funny. I have a friend, Betsy Kulikowski, who writes Supernatural, and we got to know each other. And the main character in her first book was named Henry Pierce. So I'm not sure how that happened, but I think all these names out there, and sure
yeah.
enough, we picked the same one.
Well, I always when I do book signings or sell books at events and stuff, and I ask people if they want me to sign the book to them, and they tell me their name, or not ask them their name. I get some really unique names, and I go, I gotta write that name down because
Oh,
names, you know.
right.
And then I ask them, do they want to be a good person or a bad person in the book? So
Well, that might help.
just steal their first name. I don't do their last name too, but yeah.
And that's
Be
another thing
amazed how
I've
many
looked
people
up.
want to be the bad person a lot of
Yeah,
times.
well, then that's true. That's one of the things another thing I had to kind of research in my books for, 90 years ago, what were the common names?
Right,
They can't be Biff and Tiffany or something, or Tristan.
right.
Anyway,
What were the most, and of course, this is where the internet helps you so much. I mean, you
yeah.
can type in Google and say, what was the most common male names in 1930 or whatever, and bang, you know.
Frank and
Now, how accurate it is, it might not be that accurate. I
uh,
mean, we assume, but
yeah, yeah, you don't know for sure.
it's a little easier than pulling out an encyclopedia, right? We always had those, right?
Right, that was 30 years old, and
Yeah, and out of date. All right, well, we're getting down here to the hour, so what events? You got any events you're going to this year? We talked a little bit about
um,
Killer Nashville, but you said
you
probably
know,
weren't going to go this year unless you got nominated.
yeah, WriterCon, that's a Bill Bernhardt conference here in Oklahoma City. That's
Yeah.
around Labor Day. Oklahoma City has kind of a small conference. It's called Lit Fest, and that's in August. Um, what else is coming? There's some retreats I'm going to, and then I think a year from now I'm going to try my first BookerCon in DC to see what it's like. Uh,
Bouchercon?
what's that?
Bouchercon?
Yeah,
Is that what you
BelcherCon.
said? Yeah.
Have
Yeah,
you
it's
been
in
to one?
Calgary. Was in going to be in Calgary this year, and we were
Right.
talking about going, but we decided against it. But we might go to the BC one. We went to the one when it was. Did you go to the one? You didn't go to the one when it was in It was in the same week before or week after Killer
I
Nashville.
remember that, but I couldn't afford both.
Yeah, so we actually traveled in our motorhome and we did both conferences.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, I was tired afterwards.
where was it that year?
It was at the Gaylord there,
Oh, really? Okay.
and that is like a city in itself.
Yeah, I've been to that.
Oh man, there was so
Crazy.
much walking involved, and they had
Mhm.
one elevator, so all the panels were 2 floors up, and they had like the bookstore and all the other stuff was down on 2 floors. There was one elevator to get up there, and it was a huge line, so you'd end up take the steps. And I was exhausted. It was over 100 degrees when we were there for the 3 day con for 4 days.
Nice.
What it was, yeah, really hot in Nashville. That even the natives said this is way hotter than normal in August. But it was fun. I got to meet a lot of authors. I got to meet Andrew Child, Lee Child's brother, who's taken over the Reacher series. I got to meet Reed Farrell Coleman, who also took over the Jesse Stone series for a while from Robert B. Parker. Lot of great Mark Cameron, another one who has done the Jack Ryan's some of the Jack Ryan books. So, yeah, I got to meet a lot of great authors. So it was really a fun time. So
Was it a little bit different atmosphere than Killer Nashville, or?
it is. Killer Nashville is more of a learning conference.
Hmm.
So there isn't usually a lot of fans there. So there's a lot of people who want to be writers that go there, and then there's a lot of writers who are still, trying to refine their craft and stuff. And
Yeah,
then you can meet agents and things like that. There's not usually as many fans at that one. BoucherCon is very heavy fan. There's more fans there. There's a lot of authors there as well, and there is a little bit of learning, but it's more of a fan conference. So
really.
so you can sell your books. Independent authors, they had a 1 day, like 4 hour window to sell independent authors selling books as well as the big names, which all got to sell through the bookstore. So
Well, I can't imagine all my fans being there. It'd probably really crowd the place out, you know. Both of them.
yeah. And another good one is a Left Coast Crime. It was in Denver a couple years ago. This year it was in San Francisco. Next year it's going to be in Santa Fe, and my wife and I are talking about going to that one. So because Santa Fe's if you like art and things like that, Santa Fe's a great town to go
We've
to.
talked about it. We haven't been.
Yeah. So another good conference to go to. So, okay, great. So let's get up here. So we're going to throw up. So you sent me a couple of your website
Yep.
and you have a link tree here. So what all can people find on your website?
It's just mainly, I've got it divided up by genre, kind of, and then of course the first page is a little bit of a bio, and then the latest books for sale and links to that. Um, and I also have a very small editing service. It's called 25 for $20. I noticed some of the judging that I've done over the years, the first 20 to 50 pages are usually what people have to submit, and sometimes they kind of strike, have 3 strikes on that. So it's kind of what I offer to do is help with the first little bit of their story, and that's about it. I mean, there's over all the books, and then different ones by genre.
It looks like you have a little bit of a sign up also there where you can sign up.
There is. I mean, I enjoy talking to people, and they're certainly welcome to send me something. If you're not spam, we'll put it that way. I'm
Well,
sure you
and
get
that's
those.
yeah, you're probably like me. You're probably getting all kinds of, including people who say they're some famous author.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and it's all junk. Because they always send from a Gmail account.
right. And I got one today. It said, "I really liked your book. What was it?" And that was pretty much it. It's like, okay,
Well, I've had people who say I loved your book and it wasn't even one of my books.
yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, sorry.
I guess they just go in and scrape your website, huh?
Yeah, there's something they're doing. I mean, it's probably all AI.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then the link tree link here. That's
Yeah, there's a few other things. It's mostly book links again, plus some of the social media links. The Substack. I have a Substack I enjoy doing, but there's a link to that on Linktree. So all kinds of stuff.
and you can sign up through your site and you send out notices when you've got new books coming out and
Mhm.
things like that as well.
Right.
And so your next one's coming July 1st.
2 more days.
2 more days, so that's always exciting.
Sorry, it's my dog going crazy,
Oh, that's okay. He's
protecting
upset
me.
about something.
Yeah, he always protects us.
Somebody at the door.
I'm sure.
Okay, and all
Well, I've
right.
enjoyed talking to you. I appreciate it.
No, it was great. I was glad having you on. I know we had a fun time on the panel
We
at
did.
Killer
Enjoyed it.
Nashville. And,
Hmm.
maybe we'll get to run into each other. I'm not sure I'm going this year either, so
Yeah.
maybe the following year we'll see. Maybe we'll run into each other at one of the other events. But we're thinking about possibly going to BoucherCon next year in Washington. We'll
Okay.
see
Now
what
I
the
know how
weather
to say
will
it.
be like.
Everybody around here says BookerCon, so I didn't know.
BoucherCon, yeah, BoucherCon is what I've always heard it, and I always wondered where the name came from,
Me too. I think
but
it was a guy named
it
Boucher.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you ran the event. Yes. So.
Hmm.
All right, Mark. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up about yourself, or
No, I'm going to keep investigating some of your stories now that
no? Well, I appreciate it. I'll have to check out your serialized story. That sounds very interesting.
it's all of $5.69. So
Five dollars and 69 cents.
right,
Wow.
because it's small and that's the way it's starting out. So
Oh, okay.
if
Well,
they
that's
catch
that's
on, I can ease them up a little bit. But
yeah. Well, with Amazon, if you price anything 2.99 or less, they take like 70% of the profit. So you
no,
got to price over two
yeah,
ninety nine for sure,
yeah,
because
that's what my Kindle is.
yeah, about drive you crazy how much like Jeff Bezos needs more money.
Oh, he does. Yeah, we
Yeah.
get $1, and he gets the rest.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, great. Well, Mark, thank you so much. Appreciate you being on the show,
Good thing.
and hopefully we'll run into each other down the
Yeah,
line.
I'll keep in touch. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll wrap things up here. I will say that I've got my new audiobook for Sold Souls in the Divine Devil series, which is book 3, is finally available. I've been so busy with all this house stuff I've been doing that I haven't had a chance to even do any promotion on it. But if you like the thriller series, Philip Polite was my narrator, has done a great job with that, and the 4th and final book will be out hopefully later this year as well. So be working on that. We're going to be heading to Des Moines, Iowa for a car show, Good Guys Car Show, which I sell books at, which I love because my private eye drives a '69 Mustang, and I'm still searching for that exact car at one of these car shows I do. So hopefully maybe I'll find one we can get a picture there. But it'll be fun. It's 3 days. It's going to be hot and humid in Des Moines, but I grew up in it, so I can't make too many excuses. So, and then my next show won't be till July 13th, since we'll be traveling for a couple of weeks. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and it'll be Mandy Barnett will be my author, will be the guest on the show. So, take care, everyone, and we will see you down the road.